Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. I mean, today is just an amazing day. We've got so much going on. I'm not going to take too much time. I want to introduce to you two speakers. Our first speaker today, Michael Smith. Michael is going to speak about JourneyGuide. JourneyGuide, which is an amazing program, which is going to help you guys take your practice to a whole new level. And at the same time, compliance is going to absolutely love this because guess what? It's going to help you justify the sales that you're making. That's the first presentation. We'll go about 20 minutes. We'll leave some time for questions. And then our second presenter, Ken Jackway, is going to talk about Indexalyzer, which is a back testing of a lot of products that are now available out there in the marketplace. So when you're sitting with the client and you're trying to figure out, well, is this a good product or not? You want to make sure you're putting the client's best interest first, and that's trying to figure out what they already have. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Michael Smith. I want to thank everyone again for attending. Take it away, Michael.
Great. Nice to meet all of you. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So are we good? Can you guys see? You have a thumbs up? All right.
Perfect.
So essentially, a little bit of background. JourneyGuide is a planning tool focused on retirement planning, and so the main focus here is that we want to make sure that we are actually doing what really is in the client's best interest. And so you're going to hear me kind of talk a bit about that. But it's the main reason why we built JourneyGuide was that we kept hearing from advisors that, you know, kind of the 80-20 rule, where they were spending 80% of their time on 20% of their clients. And so there were a lot of clients that were not getting retirement plans. So we wanted to make sure that we were doing, making the entry, kind of the usability very straightforward, getting to results very quickly. My background, I was at Goldman Sachs for 17 years, building trading systems, portfolio management systems. I have a patent on asset allocation optimization. And so we built a lot of those concepts and techniques kind of in the background. So it's very, very robust in terms of the calculations, but we built it so it's simple and easy to use. So let me just walk through an example of a case. When you log in as an advisor, this is what you see, all of your clients. Your opportunities is a section down below. It's a lead generation tool that we have. I'm not going to have time to go into that today, but let me just dive into a sample case. So once you've built out a case, you would see kind of the overview page. I'll skip over that for now. 3 pages of entry, only capturing the data that's absolutely necessary to build out a retirement plan. So first page is about you, demographic type information, date of birth, are they employed, when they plan to retire, any co-client information, the state, because we calculate both state and federal taxes. The retirement spending goal, so this is after taxes in today's dollars. You'll see that we actually calculate this number in a little bit, but this is to be able to just give kind of a level set expected goal. So then all kinds of additional assumptions, life expectancy and so on, that you can set as a firm, kind of as defaults, or individually per client. The next page is investments and savings. So there's 2 different views or ways that you can have this information represented. The first, very high level, we call this the simple view, broken out by his and her qualified, his and her Roth, and non-qualified. So where you would just aggregate their, for example, his qualified accounts. You can see the what our default model portfolios are. We model 18 different asset classes and sub-asset classes. You can actually define your own model portfolios. So if the advisor has in their practice a particular asset, model portfolios, they can define those themselves, and any contribution that they're making prior to retirement. And then the detailed view, this is where they can add in as many individual accounts as that they want to, all different types of accounts. And so they can go as detailed as they want, putting in all, however many accounts that the client might have, or keep it high level. The retirement asset mix, because most folks would have a different asset mix in retirement than they would prior to retirement. Any advisory fees that the advisor would be charging, so AUM fees, and then any product fees. So this would be specifically if they focus on ETFs or mutual funds. So we like to separate those out. And then additionally, any assumptions regarding the withdrawal strategy, we by default do a tax efficient strategy, first from non-qualified, then qualified, then finally Roth. But they can, the advisor can move those accounts around if they wanted to. And then the third and final page of entry, we call this income and expenses. So we have a Social Security calculator built right in to JourneyGuide. So if you have a statement from, if the client actually has a Social Security statement, they can enter in the PIA amount at FRA, and then indicate when they're intending to start taking Social Security. Now, this is not what the advisor is recommending. This is actually when the client thinks that they want to start taking Social Security. So you'll see further down in another page where the advisor would be providing their advice, and we do some optimization there in terms of when to start taking Social Security. And if they don't have a statement, you just put in last full-time wage. We do the calculation of what that PIA amount happens to be. Then at the bottom here, you'll see other income and expenses. This is really where you can start to make it look like that client. So for example, if they have any particular income streams that they know happens to be coming in. So for example, this person had a pension. If they happen to have, maybe they're going to be selling a business, we can indicate whether it's supplementing their income or it's an infusion into one of their accounts. So again, this is an example of a pension, when they're getting that money, any survivorship component, start and end age, and then any rate of growth. So again, you can add as many of those as you like. And that's it in terms of entry. So the first page of results, we call this Where Do I Stand? So this is where you really start to see some of the calculations happening. So behind the scenes, what we just did there is that we ran 5,000 Monte Carlo simulations. That's 5,000 market simulations of all of the 18 different asset classes that we're modeling for every single year. And like most tools that would run some kind of Monte Carlo, you get a sense of, okay, what's the likelihood that you can meet that goal? So that's pretty typical of tools that do that kind of analysis. But the problem is that people don't really understand percentages. So they don't understand, what does this 65 actually mean? 65%, is that passing? Is it failing? If you get on a plane and you have a 65% chance of making it to your destination, is that a good thing? So we decided to instead kind of reverse engineer our calculations. And instead of giving it just as a percent in terms of the answer, what we've done is we've said, okay, we need to put it in terms that the client understands. They said that they want to have a high degree of confidence that they're going to be able to spend $90,000. So we say, okay, how much can I spend in retirement? So that number is $74,400. So that's after taxes in today's dollars, so inflation adjusted. So it really puts that 90,000, and instead of saying 65%, it puts it in terms that they understand. So graphically, you can see where the money is coming from. The red line represents their spending. Going up with inflation, then tapering, people tend to spend a bit less gradually as they're entering retirement. And then finally at age 85, it kicks back up with inflation and healthcare. And you can see that we actually have a detailed cash flow, especially for those engineering clients. They like to see the numbers. So you can see, with one of those 5,000 iterations, what those actually looks like, where the money's coming from. And actually, you can even click on the federal tax column, and we are doing, like I said, 5,000 Monte Carlo simulations for every single year. We're maintaining basis. Each year, we know how much is taxed at the ordinary income rate for capital gains. Any loss carryover, we know how Social Security is taxed. We've included the sunsetting for the tax rates happening here in a couple of years. All of that to the point where we can actually populate a 1040. So this is just a sample. You can't actually file this, in the year 2036, but it gives an idea of kind of the level of detail of our calculations. So clearly there is a gap. They're not able to meet their goal of 90,000. So there's about a $15,000 gap. So unfortunately, this is where a lot of people are told, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you can't meet your goal. You're going to have to work another 6 years, or you're going to have to save an additional $80,000 in order to meet your spending goal. We call those sacrifices. We would rather focus on solutions, not sacrifices. So that's what leads me to this last page, exploring options. So what we're going to do, and this is really where the advisor can show kind of the value that they're bringing to the relationship. So what we're going to do is we're going to make changes over here on the left-hand side, and you're going to see that reflected on the right-hand side. The 74,400 in blue, so that's going to remain constant. That's their current plan without any changes. And you're going to see this green bar move up or down depending on the change that we make. So for example, if I defer Social Security for him by 1 year to 64, we reran all of our 5,000 simulations, because you have to take everything into account to recalculate the fact that we're taking Social Security one year later. And that represents an increase in how much they can spend in retirement. A 2% increase goes up to 76,000. So let me take that back. Let me go ahead and add in an annuity. So you have the capability, we call this our annuity wizard. We model fixed index annuities, but variable annuities, RILAs. If you don't see something in this list of products, you have the capability of actually building your own and creating your own annuity, if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and include, I'll go ahead and include the a RILA here, the Indexed Advantage Income. And so that actually has two different riders, an increasing income and a level income. And you can see down below that what we're actually doing is we're running through our 5,000 Monte Carlo simulations through this RILA, and each one of those strategies along with including the rider, so that we can actually produce how much is actually the guaranteed income that's coming out of the product, that first year average, so the first year of payments across all of our 5,000 simulations, and then also across the entire plan. Now you can change how much actually goes into that annuity. By default, it's 20% into the annuity, pulling from their largest account. You can also change when payout starts. So for example, if you said, oh, I actually want it to start in the year 2031, then we recalculate all of our 5,000 simulations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the rising income, and we'll do, let's go ahead and do the S&P trigger, as well as now we'll go ahead and do the NASDAQ, and we can do 50% in each. Now you can indicate any adjustment to the advisory fee if they happen to have that, and also indicate where that money is going to come from. We're going to go ahead and include it, actually pull it out of the portfolio. So by including or reallocating, essentially, this is not new money, but rather this is reallocating some of their assets, 20%, into that RILA. You can see that we actually have an increase of over 8.5% in how much they can spend in retirement. So if I scroll down, you can see the green bar now represents money that's coming in from that annuity. And let me show you this. This is actually the most powerful graph that we have. So we call this our income frontier graph. So I am going to deselect this scenario. So this is not time. The x-axis actually represents all of our 5,000 simulations. So I think I had mentioned when I was first kind of looking at building a tool, you know, we definitely were focused on making sure that we made this tool easy and simple to input information, but also, you know, incorporating annuities. Well, I had no idea. Coming from Goldman, I had no idea what an annuity was. So I was very skeptical. So I needed a way to show, okay, is this actually this change that we're making, that we're proposing, really in the client's best interest? Are they better off with this particular purchase? So like I said, the x-axis is all of those 5,000 simulations. The poor market on the left side, excellent, amazing markets on the right-hand side. So if I hover over on this graph on the blue line, that's their current plan, how much they can spend in those poor market sequences. So for example, I'm hovering over the 95th percentile. There's that 74,400 number. If I go way over to the right, so theoretically, the client could start spending $137,000 in the first year, and then it goes up with inflation. But they'd only have a 3% likelihood of being able to sustain that level of spending. So you can kind of get a sense of how this graph is created now. It's how much they can spend at each one of those market conditions or likelihoods. So if I layer in the purchase or reallocation into that annuity, okay, it makes sense that in poor markets, we've moved a bit of money from their investments into that annuity. So it makes sense that actually in providing that income stream, with the rider. So it makes sense that in poor markets, they'd be able to spend more. What I didn't expect is where that crossover would be. I was thinking maybe the crossover would be at the 80th or 75th percentile, but look at this. The crossover is actually at the 16th percentile, meaning markets would have to perform in the top 15% or better for this not to have been a better decision for the client. So again, it's speaking about, really speaking to best interest. Is this change actually doing something that's better for the client? Now, something else to consider is we essentially have kind of de-risked the portfolio by including that annuity. So instead of keeping the remaining assets still at 60-40, we could actually be a bit more aggressive. And you'll notice that we took just a slight hit of just a few $100s at the 95th percentile. But look what it did for the income frontier. Now, across the board, all 5,000 markets that we model, all 5,000 different sequences, the client is actually better off in all of those different situations. They can spend more. So then finally, we can look at optimizing Social Security. It's as simple as moving the sliders. And you can see that at this point, we now have pushed out when they start taking Social Security. They actually have reached their goal of over $90,000 a year. The percent increase in how much that advisor has actually helped the client is over 21%, almost 22% increase in how much they can spend in retirement. At this point, they can save the scenario, just call it sample. They can generate a report. Now we've gone through FINRA process. We have a non-objection letter from FINRA. So this can be shared with the client. The advisor can select what slides to include. All of this would be, customized, specific to the client, obviously his or her name, address, logo. It's essentially white labeled, for that particular advisor. And then let me go ahead and download the report. And you can see that, again, they can select which slides to include, but it's basically all the information that advisor had already shared with the client. Now, I will note that at the back are disclaimers. You can actually, as a broker dealer, include additional disclosures. So all of that is customizable to include additional disclosures at the back end of that. So that is the planning tool in a nutshell. So I think I kept it to 18 minutes.
You did great. You did great, Michael. You did great. I do have a couple of questions. First question is, how often are the parameters by which you use to derive the result, how often are those updated? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the annuity information is actually, and this is actually a relationship that Kent and I have. All of the rates, the annuity rates, so the pars, cap rates, all of that information about the products are actually updated daily. And so Kent's team will, they're getting feeds and understand, okay, these particular products had updates today. So they're going to go in and update that information. So that's updated daily. The underlying assumptions in terms of our asset class assumptions, those we actually use a third party called Horizon Actuarial Service. So they do a survey across 35 different investment firms. So Goldman being one, JP Morgan, all the big names. And then they consolidate those assumptions into a report annually. So we update those also on an annual basis.
Perfect. So guys on the call, I want to thank everyone for joining. We're going to turn over to Kent in a second, but I want to give you a simple idea that you need to know about. And before I start with that idea, it's important to know that today's call is just to introduce to you these two powerful software programs. And what's happening now is we're trying to give you guys as much in the way of services and support necessary to take your practice to the next level. And as part of this program, today is an introduction to this. I'm going to host 2 more meetings, one for each of these software programs. So this way you guys can dig down deep into the weeds and really understand how powerful these tools are. So that announcement will come out soon enough, but I just want to make sure that those of you that are on here will really get excited about some opportunities that are being presented to you today. And now let me just give you one quick sales idea. When interest rates are low, the majority of people, your clients, if not you, go out and refinance your debt. They take on lower interest mortgages, they take their debt and they restructure it. They do everything they can to get the lowest rate. What we're doing now in this environment with interest rates so much higher than they were, and the 10-year Treasury, I think, was at a 0.53 in July of 2021, I want to say, or 22. Now we're up over 4 and maybe over 5. And so with that kind of growth, how can you leverage that for your best interest of the client? Well, you want to refinance their retirement. You want to review every instrument that they're using for retirement, annuities, mutual fund, portfolio, whatever it is that they've got earmarked for retirement. You want to make sure that money is working hard for them.